Welcome on board, chosen one. Look at the mess you walked out of. Look at the chaos you survived. And look at the way the world suddenly got quiet when you stepped back into the room. It's funny how loud they were when they thought you were weak. It's funny how brave they were when they believed you didn't see anything. But now their mouths are shut, their eyes are wide, and their hands are shaking because you proved every single thing they swore you made up. When they said you were overreacting, you just watched. When they laughed behind your back, you heard every word. And when they tried to paint you as the crazy one, you let them. Because you knew time would snitch for you. And it did. Press the like button and subscribe to pay this message back. They're looking at you now like you crawled out of some secret dimension, whispering behind locked doors, asking each other the same question over and over, like a nightmare they can't wake up from. How did they know? Of course they're scared. You became the one thing they never prepared for, a quiet storm that remembers everything, forgets nothing, and forgives even less. You stand there calm, steady, unbothered, and they feel exposed. That's the part that kills them. Your silence hits harder than their insults. Your presence hits harder than their lies. And the universe keeps backing you up like some unstoppable force they wish they never messed with. You want to know what really breaks them? It's not just that you were right. It's that you were right in ways you never said out loud. You saw shifts before they happened. You caught patterns before they formed. You felt the change in someone's tone before they even realized they changed it. You predicted betrayal like you were reading a script they didn't know they were acting in. You didn't guess. You didn't get lucky. You were observant in a world full of people who only see what benefits them. And honestly, they're lucky you never turned your power against them. You could have ruined reputations. You could have exposed private conversations. You could have destroyed their little alliances. But you didn't. You simply stepped back and watched the universe deliver everything they tried to hide. That's the part that haunts them at night. Not your words, not your anger, your self-control, your refusal to play dirty while knowing the whole truth. They don't know how to process that kind of strength. People like them only understand chaos, so when you stayed calm, it confused them. It rattled them. It made them realize you were 10 steps ahead while they were bragging about being 2 steps ahead. Their biggest wound is this: you were the one they thought they could fool. You were the one they thought they could manipulate. They thought you'd be blind forever, and now they can't stand to look at you because every time they do, they see their lies reflected back at them. They see the mask they wore. They see the parts of themselves they hoped nobody would ever notice. And the worst part? You noticed all of it while pretending you didn't. This story didn't start yesterday. You've been like this your whole life. Even as a kid, you could tell when someone wasn't telling the full truth. You sensed when someone had bad intentions. You felt when a room shifted. People mocked it. People brushed it off. People told you to stop being dramatic. But later, those same people circled back to you with the same stunned look. Wait, you were right? Every time. At school, with friends, with relationships, with co-workers. Your instincts hit harder than their logic. You grew up thinking something was wrong with you, but now the truth is clearer than daylight. Something is wrong with them. They can't handle being seen. They can't handle being figured out. They can't handle that your awareness didn't come from pain alone. It came from evolution. Experience sharpened you. Loss rewired you. Betrayal trained you. You didn't become this version of yourself by accident. You became this way because people kept underestimating the quiet kid, the kind kid, the trusting kid, and now they have to deal with the upgraded version they accidentally created. Here's what makes you terrifying to them. You remember patterns, not excuses. You don't fall for the same trick twice. You don't entertain fake apologies. You don't break your own boundaries for people who wouldn't even cross the street for you. You walk into rooms with that calm, I already figured everything out energy, and it freezes people. They hate that. They hate that you learned your lessons. They hate that you leveled up. They hate that you became harder to fool. They hate that the universe keeps proving you right. They hate that they can't lie to you anymore. And they hate that you don't even need to say, I told you so. Your silence does the job for you. They're panicking because now they know the truth. You were the threat the whole time. Not because you harmed anyone, but because you saw everything. That's why they're asking, how did you know? Because deep down, they know the answer. You always knew, and that scares them more than anything else. And chosen one, yeah, I'm talking to the mind reader in the room. You ready to go even deeper into this? Because what comes next isn't for the faint. If you're really built the way they fear you are, you'll feel that strange pull in your chest, telling you not to click away. Drop a 777 in the comments if you're ready to step fully into that power that has everyone whispering, how did they know? Strengthen this mission by hitting like and subscribing so this voice gets louder than their doubts. And now we move forward, one step at a time, into the very truth they tried to keep from you. If you're truly the chosen one, you'll stay to the end without even trying. Let's begin. Number 1. How your power was accidentally built by the people who tried to break you. Funny how the same people who trained you with their lies now cry about the monster they created. You want the real beginning, the real origin of why everyone is suddenly terrified of how accurate you are. It didn't start with some magical moment. It didn't come from a peaceful meditation or a sweet little revelation. It started in the dirty places, the quiet betrayals, the nights where you stared at the ceiling wondering how someone could look you in the eyes and still choose to lie. You didn't wake up with this ability. You earned it in the trenches. Every fake smile, every shady tone, every tiny shift in someone's voice became another lesson you never asked for, but learned anyway. You weren't born reading people like open books. They trained you. That's the part they don't want to admit. Every time they lied, they sharpened you. Every time they tried to gaslight you, they strengthened your clarity. Every time they hid something, you became someone who could see in the dark. And now they're shocked you can predict their next move. Now they're scared you can sense tension before anyone else notices. They built that version of you brick by brick while laughing like you'd never catch on. Now they're panicking because you caught on to everything. The truth is, this story didn't begin with strength. It began with pain. You were soft once. You believed people. You trusted easily. You took everything at face value because you didn't know how cruel or strategic people could be. Back then, you thought honesty was the default. But the world corrected you fast, didn't it? The first betrayals hit like a car crash. The confusion, the denial, the "this can't be real." That was the beginning of your training arc. You didn't know it then, but you were stepping into the version of yourself people fear today. You remember the way manipulation felt before you understood it. The way someone would twist a story just enough to make you doubt your own eyes. The way they'd switch the blame, flip the script, and make you apologize for things they did. You remember the exhaustion, the nerves, the paranoia they tried to pin on you. You weren't paranoid. You were being prepared. Life wasn't punishing you. Life was handing you a manual on how humans really operate when nobody's watching. Those fake friends, they were your early textbooks, the ones who smiled with their teeth but not their eyes, the ones who copied your energy but never supported your growth. They taught you to listen, not just to what people say, but how they say it. They taught you to track inconsistencies, mood switches, weird pauses, all the things most people miss. And now those same friends whisper, They knew. They always knew, like you're some supernatural threat. No, you're just someone who paid attention while they thought you were clueless. The lovers who swore loyalty while entertaining someone else. They were your final exams. They taught you the subtleties, the sudden phone flip, the late-night tension, the shift in tone mid-conversation, the way someone's energy changes when their heart belongs somewhere else. You studied those moments until the patterns burned into your mind, not because you wanted to, but because life forced you to. You didn't just learn human behavior, you learned human intention. And the hardest lessons came from the people you trusted the most. Family, the ones who should have protected you, but instead made you question your own sanity. They twisted the truth so cleanly, you started rewriting your own memories just to keep the peace. You defended them in rooms they never defended you in. You carried guilt that wasn't yours. That's where your precision came from. You learned to separate performance from reality, because if you didn't, you would have drowned in their version of the story. So yeah, you gaslit yourself for a while. You made excuses for them. You tried to force their actions into the story you wanted to believe. You wanted to think they cared, that they wouldn't hurt you on purpose, that maybe you were just being emotional. But then life hit you with the same pattern again. Different person, same betrayal. Different voice, same lie. Different face, same energy. And that's when it clicked. It wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't bad luck. It was a script. And you had finally read enough chapters to recognize the plot. That moment right there is where the chosen one was born. Not when you became strong, not when you became confident, not when you healed. The chosen one was born the day you stopped rewriting people's behavior into something prettier, the day you stopped trying to make their lies logical, the day you faced the truth head on and said, "No, I'm not imagining this. The pattern is real." That was the moment you stepped into the version of yourself that scares people now. The version that sees through fake stories like thin glass. The version that can read silence louder than words. The version that catches a lie before the liar even finishes the sentence. People love to call you too much until their behavior lines up perfectly with your predictions. Then suddenly you're scary. Suddenly you're different. Suddenly they want to know how you figured them out. But let's be honest, they know exactly how. They gave you every puzzle piece. They just never expected you to put the picture together. You didn't learn this power in a classroom. You learned it in heartbreaks that cracked your chest open. You learned it in friendships that died without explanation. You learned it in rooms where you smiled politely while someone tried to make you doubt your own senses. You learned it in moments you had to survive alone. Those lonely nights weren't empty. They were sharpening you. Those silent breakdowns weren't failures. They were upgrades in stalling. And now, people act surprised like you evolved overnight. They don't understand that it wasn't strength that shaped you. It was survival. You didn't choose to become the villain in their story. They wrote you into that role themselves by trying to play you, by underestimating you, by thinking you wouldn't notice the cracks in their mask. So when they ask, "How did you know?" you could tell them the truth. You could say, "Because you taught me." You could say, "Because I studied the pain you gave me." You could say, "Because I don't fall for the same mistake twice." But you won't. You'll just smile. Because the real sting for them is not your answer. It's the fact that you don't owe them one. You see what others miss because life trained you in the shadows. You know the truth because lies were your first language. You read people because people used to read you like a victim. Not anymore. Now you're the one with the sight, the instinct, the awareness, the terrifying accuracy that keeps them awake at night. They built you, they armed you, they sharpened you. And now they're scared of the weapon they created. No wonder they're whispering, "How did you know?" Number 2, the script they all secretly followed. They swear they're unique, yet they all hide behind the same cheap tricks. Here's the thing nobody tells you. They weren't clever, they weren't unpredictable, they weren't special, they were basic, pathetic, running on the same tired playbook that's been passed around for generations like a cursed family heirloom. Different faces, different voices, different histories, but the same exact moves. Gaslight them. Deny everything. Blame them for your mistake. Cry when cornered. Love bomb when losing control. Disappear when exposed. That's all they ever knew. And you? You became the first person who actually paid attention to the pattern. You didn't figure this out because you're jaded. You figured it out because you stopped letting their performances distract you. Imagine sitting in a theater your whole life, trusting every scene, every tear, every apology like it's real. And then suddenly seeing the wires, the scripted lines, the actors rehearsing behind the curtains. That's what awakening feels like. You didn't change. Your eyes finally adjusted to the lighting, and once they did, you couldn't unsee anything. Once you recognize the trick, the magician loses all his power. They thought they were unpredictable geniuses. Meanwhile, you caught the formula. They act offended to stop you from questioning them. They play confused so they don't have to answer. They flip the story to paint themselves the victim. They pretend to care when they need something. They act cold the moment you stop feeding their ego. It's the same playlist on repeat. They act shocked when you call it out because they think they invented manipulation. No, bro. You've just become fluent in the language they all secretly speak. Imagine this. Someone hands you a book written in a language you've never seen before. You stare at the symbols, confused, lost. And for years, people around you speak this language without explaining it. You just feel something's off. Something isn't adding up. Then one day something clicks. One sentence suddenly makes sense. And from that day on, every page that confused you becomes clear as day. That's what happened to you. The moment you recognized the tactics, every person's behavior from your past lit up like neon signs. Patterns everywhere. Clues everywhere, red flags everywhere. You didn't become paranoid, you just stopped being blind. People don't hate that you see the truth. They hate that you don't accept their lie anymore. And that's what rattles them. Before they could get away with everything, they could spin their little stories, act outraged, play victim, pull emotional strings, distract, deflect, charm, cry, pretend. And it worked. You believed them. You gave them chances. You doubted yourself. You softened. You stretched your boundaries. You apologized for noticing the truth. That old version of you was easy to manipulate. But now you recognize every move before they make it. You can tell when someone's tone changes because they're hiding something. You can sense when someone's nice because they need something from you. You can see through fake kindness like glass. The moment someone lies, your body reacts before they finish the sentence. Your intuition fires off like an alarm system. And what bothers them most? You don't even confront them anymore. You just mentally check out. Imagine this scenario. Someone tries to gaslight you, expecting you to panic, over-explain, apologize. Instead, you just look at them with that calm, "I already solved this puzzle" expression. That reaction destroys them. They don't know how to manipulate someone who sees the end of the story before the first chapter starts. They have no power over someone who watches patterns, not promises. You became dangerous the moment you stopped needing proof to trust your instincts. They hate that you stopped asking, "Am I overthinking?" and started saying, "My instinct is rarely wrong." Because let's be real, your accuracy is ridiculous now. You can sense betrayal in silence. You can feel hidden motives in someone's smile. You can detect jealousy behind praise. You can hear lies in the smallest change of tone. You read people not by what they show, but by the parts they try to hide. You don't need evidence anymore. You recognize intention, and intention never lies. This is where they get mad. This is why they whisper. This is why the question that haunts them is, how did they know? Because their tricks used to work on everyone else. Everyone else fell for the theatrics. Everyone else bought the sob stories. Everyone else believed the fake innocence. But you saw the glitch. You caught the script. You matched their behavior across different people and realized, oh, this isn't personality. This is manipulation. Once you see it, you can't go back. You can't unknow the language. You can't ignore the pattern. Imagine you're watching a chess game. At first, the pieces look random. You can't predict anything, but once you learn the strategy, you can see 5 moves ahead. That's you now. You can predict how someone will react before they react. You know when they'll switch from charming to aggressive. You know when they'll start guilt-tripping. You know when they'll suddenly be hurt because you didn't respond how they wanted. You even know when they'll disappear because they realize manipulation isn't working. You're fluent in their entire emotional playbook, and this fluency scares them. Because manipulators need confusion to survive. They need you unsure. They need you doubting yourself. They need you explaining yourself so they can twist your words. They need emotional chaos because that's where they win. But you became calm, silent, observant, steady, and nothing terrifies a manipulator more than someone who doesn't react. Imagine a snake preparing to bite, only to find out the person in front of it already built immunity to its venom. That's you. Their tricks don't land anymore. Their guilt trips don't shake you. Their fake innocence doesn't move you. Their anger doesn't intimidate you. They used to pull your strings like a puppet. Now the strings are cut, and they're standing there holding nothing. People fear your intuition because it exposes the parts of them they aren't ready to face. They think you're too cold. No, you're too aware. They call you difficult. No, you're just done being played. They say you've changed. No, you just stopped participating in the performance. They think you're mean. No, you finally see what they're doing. They think you're scary. No, you're simply not blind anymore. And let's answer the question that might be haunting you. Why do they all act the same? Are humans really that predictable? Here's the truth. Most manipulators use the same tactics because most manipulators aren't creative. They're lazy. They don't grow. They don't evolve. They repeat patterns that worked before, hoping they'll work again. The only reason they ever had power was because you didn't understand the method. Now that you do, they're powerless. You're not a psychic. You're observant. You're experienced. You're upgraded. Their tricks became obvious. Their tactics became cliché. Their words became recycled. That's why you're scaring them. That's why they whisper. That's why they can't look you in the eye. Because they can't trick someone who understands the script better than they do. And the truth is simple. They didn't expect you to wake up. They didn't expect you to connect to the dots. They didn't expect you to evolve beyond their control. But you did. And now their playbook is useless. That's why they ask, how did you know? Because deep down, they already know the answer. You saw the pattern, you learned the language, and once you learned it, you became untouchable. Number 3, when your silence became their nightmare. They're not scared of you, they're scared of the fact you see them without their mask on. Here's the part that makes them sweat. You don't flinch anymore. Their old tricks bounce off you like cheap rubber. The guilt trips, the shaky apologies, the fake tears, the dramatic pauses, they used to work on you. But now you just sit there with that cold, bored expression that says, I've seen this episode already. And that look terrifies them more than any argument ever could. Imagine this, a magician doing the same trick over and over, expecting applause, but the audience already knows where the hidden wires are. That's you. You're not impressed. You're not moved. You're not emotionally accessible to their manipulation anymore. You're observing them like a scientist watching a predictable lab rat run the same maze for the 100th time. The moment you stopped reacting, they realized their power evaporated. That silence of yours, it hits harder than yelling. They hate it. They feel exposed in it. They feel judged by it. They feel seen by it. And manipulators crumble the second they realize their performance isn't landing. Because if they can't fool you, they start asking the question that eats them alive. What if they tell someone else what they saw? What if others realize it too? You became the walking proof of their fraud. Your clarity is the spotlight they never asked for. Your intuition is the mirror they avoid. And deep down, they know exactly why you scare them. Because if you figured them out this easily, it means their whole identity is fragile. It means they're not the mastermind they pretended to be. It means the game is over. Their mask is cracking. Their script is failing. Their time is running out. And you're just sitting there, calm and unbothered, watching the truth do what it always does: expose everything they tried to hide. Number 4. The one who hears what others pretend not to feel. They're scared of you because you don't wait for the truth. You feel it. Here's what they can't stand. You don't just catch lies. You sense intentions before the words even form. You walk into a room and the whole atmosphere shifts for you, like someone just turned on a hidden frequency. 30 seconds. That's all you need to know who's real, who's pretending, who's uneasy, who's calculating, who wants something, and who's hoping you don't notice their performance cracking. Imagine this: everyone else is watching people like a blurry movie, and you're seeing the director's cut with all the behind-the-scenes mistakes still showing. You shake someone's hand, and your instinct whispers, "They're hiding something." You hear a friendly tone, but your intuition exposes the agenda underneath like subtitles. They call it paranoia because they're terrified of admitting you're right. Your intuition isn't magic, it's receipts. You learned this the hard way, through people who said one thing and did another, through empty apologies, fake kindness, and promises that evaporated the moment you walked out of the room, through being misled, drained, betrayed, and used. That pain didn't numb you, it trained you. It made you pay attention to things most people ignore. Eye contact that breaks too soon, smiles that don't reach the eyes, voices that shake when they lie, energy that drops when intentions turn dark. You stopped trusting what people say and started reading the truth they try to hide. Actions, micro-expressions, nervous shifts, energy spikes, emotional inconsistencies. That's your language now, and you're fluent in it. People hate when you read their energy because energy doesn't lie. They can fake kindness, they can script their words, they can rehearse their excuses, but their energy, never. And that's why they fear you. You're the one person they can't perform for, can't fool, can't manipulate. You feel what they hope stays invisible, and that alone makes you unstoppable. Number 5. The instinct they accidentally turned into a weapon. Every time they hurt you, they upgraded the very alarm system that now exposes them. Your instinct wasn't born sharp. It was carved, layer by layer, through every moment you doubted yourself and paid the price. Every time you ignored that tiny pull in your chest and got blindsided, something in you evolved. Every time you said, "Maybe I'm overthinking. And they betrayed you anyway. Your inner radar recalibrated itself. Every scar refined the signal. Every disappointment tightened the wiring. Until eventually, your intuition didn't whisper anymore. It roared. Imagine this. A smoke detector that used to beep softly now blasts through walls because it's been set off so many times it learned the patterns of every fire. That's your instinct. It doesn't wait for proof. It doesn't wait for explanations. The second someone's energy tilts even slightly off, your system senses it before your mind can even put it into words. And the best part? You finally trust it. Because every single time, it's been the only part of you that refused to lie. Your intuition became dangerous the moment you stopped ignoring it. You feel the shift when someone's words don't match their energy. You notice the hesitation they hoped you'd overlook. You recognize the tone change that exposes their true intention. And once that alarm goes off, you're done. If your gut says run, you're gone before they even collect their next excuse. If your instinct says someone isn't right, you detach instantly. No speech, no drama, no negotiation, just silence. And manipulators can't handle silence. Silence is the one thing they can't twist. They're terrified because they know they can't manipulate someone who trusts themselves. They can't gaslight someone who remembers every contradiction word for word. They can't fool someone who's already met their type in 100 different bodies, wearing 100 different smiles. You've seen their behavior before. You've lived through their tricks. You've survived their games. You know their script better than they do. You became untouchable when you learned the difference between instinct and fear. Your instinct protects you, your fear protects them. And now they're the ones afraid. Because your intuition isn't just a feeling anymore, it's a weapon they helped forge. Number 6, the one who sees the move before the player even touches the board. They call you scary, but what really scares them is how predictable they've always been. Here's the part that messes with their heads. You don't wait for the punch anymore. You see it coming from miles away. You don't react to behavior. You decode it like you're watching a trailer for a movie you've already memorized. When someone suddenly gets sweet, you already know they're about to slide in a request wrapped in fake kindness. When they get cold, you already know someone else is warming their ego. When they start defending themselves against accusations you never made, you already know they exposed themselves. Innocent people stay calm. Guilty people panic before the question even lands. Imagine watching a chess match where the opponent thinks they're being slick with their strategic moves, but you already predicted the checkmate 10 steps earlier. That's your life now. You've lived through this script too many times. You know the tone shifts, the mood changes, the sudden silence, the dramatic outbursts, the forced laughter, the recycled excuses. It's all a rerun to you. They freeze because nobody expects their manipulation to get intercepted mid-air. And when you calmly speak their next move out loud before they even try it, you break their entire system. You short-circuit the manipulation. You ruin the performance. You make them realize they're not mysterious geniuses. They're painfully predictable. You've studied enough fakes to see patterns the way detectives see motives. You're not guessing, you're analyzing. You're not paranoid, you're experienced. And deep down, they know it. That's why your calmness scares them more than anger ever could. People fear what they can't fool. You became the person they can't trick, can't distract, and can't emotionally detour. They hate that, because you don't just see the truth. You see it before it happens. Number 7. Their last-ditch trick. When exposed, people start screaming, "You're crazy." They don't attack your character because you're wrong. They attack your character because they're exposed. Here's the part where the fakes always show their true colors. When they can't outsmart you, when their little performance starts collapsing, when they realize you already decoded the entire situation. They panic. And their panic always sounds the same. You're paranoid. You're too negative. You're imagining things. It's the oldest trick in the book. When they can't hide the truth, they try to hide you. Imagine cornering a liar with nothing but calm observation, and they start screaming like a broken fire alarm. That's their gaslighting defense. They think that if they make you look unstable, nobody will listen to your accuracy. They'll frame you as bitter. They'll label you emotional. They'll twist your words, not because they're right, but because they're terrified people will believe you more than them. People call you crazy right before the truth proves you sane. What they forget is that you carry receipts like trophies, screenshots, timelines, patterns you mapped long before the mask slipped. You remember details they hoped you forgot. You recognized behaviors they hoped blended in. And every time someone doubted you, life backed you up, over and over, again and again. You predicted betrayal and the betrayal walked in right on schedule. You predicted shifts and they unfolded exactly how you said they would. That's why you stopped caring about being liked. Liking you never protected you. Accuracy did. Awareness did. Your ability to read patterns became survival, not ego. They don't ask, "How did you know?" out of respect. They ask it out of fear. Because deep down, they're not confused. They're worried. What they're really asking is, how do I hide from someone who sees everything? And the answer is simple. They can't. Number 8. The silence that exposes everything they tried to hide. They don't fear your voice. They fear what you figured out without ever opening your mouth. Here's what rattles them to their core. You don't explain yourself anymore. You don't justify. You don't warn. You don't break down the clues like you used to. You just go quiet. And that silence? It's louder than any accusation. It makes them spiral, replaying their own actions, trying to guess the exact moment you caught them. They're not asking, "How did you know?" because they respect your insight. They're asking because they're desperate to fix the leaks in their mask before someone else notices. Imagine a thief, terrified, not because the alarm went off, but because it didn't. Silence means uncertainty. Uncertainty means exposure. That's what you give them, the fear of not knowing how much you know. Your silence is the report card they never wanted to read. Most people cling to comforting lies. They'll rewrite an entire story just to avoid admitting someone they trusted was playing them. But you chose truth the moment you stopped letting people tell you who they were and started watching who they proved themselves to be. That decision made you immune to manipulation, untouchable, because truth is a power liars can never control. They want you to speak so they can adjust their performance. They want clues so they can hide better next time. They want explanations so they can shift blame and rewrite history. But you give them nothing. You let them drown in the tension they created. You let them feel the weight of their own actions echoing back at them. Silence isn't weakness. It's the moment the villain finally realizes the hero was never the fool. Your calm, collected quiet destroys them, because silence is the one thing they can't twist, can't argue with, and can't escape. Number 9. The quiet exit that destroys them more than any outburst ever could. They thought you'd fight for them. Instead, you vanished, and that silence hit harder than any revenge. Here's the part that always blindsides them. Your power isn't loud. It isn't dramatic. It isn't the kind of revenge that comes with fireworks and speeches. Your revenge is clean, surgical, silent. It's the kind of power that doesn't need an audience, because the impact is guaranteed. While they were busy trying to stay 3 steps ahead, you were already 10 steps beyond the entire game. They thought you weren't paying attention. They thought your calm meant confusion. They thought your silence meant surrender. Meanwhile, you were observing everything and wasting energy on nothing. People only call your silence weakness until it ruins them. You don't argue anymore because arguments require you to pretend their lies deserve a conversation. You don't defend yourself because the truth always shows up eventually, and when it does, it hits harder than anything you could have said. You don't expose them because exposure is mercy, and you don't owe them mercy. You let time unravel them. You let their own behavior betray them. You let karma do the talking while you sit back, untouched. Imagine someone pulling every trick they know, waiting for your outburst, and instead you simply walk away. No closure, no emotional scene, no warning shot, just absence. That's the kind of revenge their ego can't survive. They never realize how much stability your presence gave them until it disappears. They never understood how much you held together until you stopped holding anything at all. The deadliest move you make is the one that looks like nothing. Your silence is the final blow. Your exit is the consequence. Your peace is the punishment. They thought you were easy to replace. Now they're haunted by the space you left behind. Number 10. The disappearance that feels like a curse to everyone who lost you. They didn't realize you were the gravity holding their world together until you took the gravity with you. This is the part that hit them the hardest. You don't storm out, you fade out. Smooth, quiet, clean. No warning, no argument, no emotional explosion for them to feed off. You just vanish. And the silence you leave behind? That thing hits like a punishment they can't outrun. You slip out of their life the same way smoke escapes a room, effortlessly, without explanation, impossible to grasp once it's gone. Imagine this. They wake up one day and the energy they used to rely on, your presence, your clarity, your loyalty, is just missing. No goodbye message, no dramatic speech, no "we need to talk," just absence. And absence is the one thing their ego can't handle. Now they replay every conversation like detectives, trying to find the exact second you realize they weren't worth your time. They dissect your last words, your last look, your last silence. They think there must have been a clue. They think there must have been a sign. But the truth is simple. You saw enough. You didn't walk away because you hated them. You walked away because they no longer deserved access to you. They want to believe you're resentful. They want to believe you're angry. It comforts them to think emotion drove your exit, because the truth terrifies them. You left with zero hate in your heart. You weren't seeking revenge. You weren't chasing closure. You weren't even trying to teach a lesson. You simply outgrew them. And no ego can survive knowing the person they tried to manipulate simply ascended. Imagine watching a movie and realizing halfway through that the main character is gone and the rest of the cast is suddenly exposed as irrelevant. That's what happened here. They were never villains in your story. They were background characters who accidentally believed they had speaking roles. The moment you went silent, their relevance died. You didn't erase them out of spite. You erased them because you recognized your value. You disappeared because your presence was a gift, not a guarantee. And now they're stuck in the emptiness you left behind, trying to understand how someone who never raised their voice ended up delivering the loudest goodbye of their life. Number 11. The final blow. When you stop caring and their world falls apart. Nothing destroys a manipulator faster than realizing they hold zero power over you. Here's the truth that shatters them. Indifference is lethal. Anger keeps them relevant. Sadness keeps them involved. Even arguments give them oxygen. But indifference? That's the death sentence. It means they don't matter. It means their tricks don't land. It means their presence doesn't register. And for someone who survives on attention, control, and emotional reaction, being irrelevant is the deepest cut you could ever deliver. Imagine this. They spent all that time crafting illusions, building fake personalities, switching masks, rehearsing excuses, only to discover you've moved on without a single backward glance. That's the moment their entire ego implodes. They'd rather be hated than forgotten, because hatred still gives them space in your mind. But you deleted that entire chapter without hesitation. Their biggest punishment wasn't your rage, it was your absence. Manipulators don't make mistakes. Manipulation is the choice. So when they sit there asking, "What did I do wrong?" the answer is painfully simple. Everything they thought they got away with finally caught up to them. They didn't think lying was wrong. They didn't think using you was wrong. They didn't think shifting blame was wrong. They thought they were brilliant. But you saw the pattern. You saw the intention behind every accident. You saw the ego behind every apology. And once you recognized that none of it was a mistake, you stopped giving them access. That's when you used the two weapons they can't fight: silence and distance. They can guilt-trip emotion, but not silence. They can twist a conversation, but not distance. They can manipulate confusion, but not clarity. You became unreachable, and unreachable is undefeatable. Your indifference is your evolution, your calm is your armor, your distance is your revenge, and your peace, that's the ultimate proof you won. Because now you live surrounded by people who don't drain you, don't play you, don't project on you, while they drown in the emptiness they created. You've become the one thing every manipulator fears, a person they can't control, can't predict, and can't impress. Number 12. The upgrade they never saw coming. They didn't lose access to you. They fell out of range. Something in you didn't just sharpen, it transformed. This wasn't a small adjustment or a minor upgrade. This was a full-blown frequency shift. One day you woke up and realized you weren't operating on the same emotional Wi-Fi as everybody else. You weren't stuck in their shallow conversations, their surface-level motives, their predictable games. You rose to a wavelength only the real can reach. Imagine this. You used to hear people's words. Now you hear their truth. You used to see their smiles. Now you see their intentions hiding behind them. You used to trust what they showed you. Now you trust what you feel. And once that switch flipped, everything fake became painfully obvious. Small talk started feeling like static noise. Forced kindness felt like cheap perfume trying to cover a bad smell. Pretend loyalty sounded like an off-key note in a song you know by heart. You didn't become sensitive. You became accurate. And that accuracy scares them, because while they're still living in the shallow end, you're operating at the deep end where masks dissolve and energy exposes everything. You feel dishonesty before it's spoken. You sense hidden motives like you've got a radar built into your bones. You pick up on jealousy, insecurity, resentment, every shade of emotion they thought they were hiding. Imagine everyone else reading people in 2D while you're reading them in 4K with surround sound. That's the difference. That's the evolution. That's the shift. You didn't outgrow people. You outgrew the frequency where their lies could survive. And that's exactly why they fear you now, because they can't fake it around you anymore. They can't charm you. They can't confuse you. They can't blend in the way they used to. You've evolved past the game, past the players, past the scripts. They didn't just lose control, they lost the ability to even reach you. And nothing terrifies them more than realizing they no longer exist on your level. And now that the whole truth is out, everything connects. The patterns, the instincts, the evolution, the fear you inspire just by existing on a higher level. You didn't become this version of yourself by accident. You were sharpened, trained, upgraded by every lie you survived. And now you stand untouchable. If this hit home, Chosen One, press like, subscribe, drop 77 in the comments, and share this with someone who needs to wake up to their own power. Your story isn't ending. It's just beginning.